Is heavy really overpowered? Yes, that's like an undisputable fact. But that doesn't mean that there aren't counters to most of the heavy classes playstyles that makes things a little bit easier. So today I'll share the secrets on how you can counter the most common heavy strats in the finals, including shields, RPGs, and most importantly, probably the reason to click this video in the first place, nukes. Let's just dive into it. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. If you're looking to buy titles, skins, or DLCs, then look no farther because G2A has it all. G2A is the world's largest marketplace for digital entertainment, where you can buy and sell your favorite titles. And this month, they're doing a huge winter sales event on some of the biggest titles, such as Starfield, FC24, Baldur's Gate, and so much more. And if you head on over and use the G2A app, you can get an additional 15% off using the code Winter15. And that's just free money that you're saving. They even have this thing called the deal of the day every day. And today, as I'm recording this on the 18th of January, you can pay just $3.02 to get a random Fortnite skin. And this skin could be 10 times the value that you paid. And remember, this offer changes and refreshes every day. So what are you waiting for? Make sure to visit G2A through the app or the website to find yourself some crazy good deals. And remember to use code Winter15 to get those 50% off if you purchase anything off the app. Back to the video. Before going into abilities, let's start with the elephant in the room. Because, you know, heavy is massive, so they're the elephant in the room. I'm talking about heavy and metaphorically likening them to an elephant because of their large size. You can laugh now. This build is by far the largest out of the three, with the slowest movement speed to boot. Heavy comes with a hefty 350 health pool and so much utility to make up for it. As such, as for the health and most of the weapons, you will find yourself outgunned by a heavy if you're taking a solo fight head on. Ideally, you will want to fight them as your teammates are nearby, but if you are forced to take a duel against them, using your small size to your advantage will be key. Assuming there isn't any cover to play, or if you are close enough, just get up real close and uncomfortable with the heavy and start strafing around them as much as you can. Speaking from the perspective of a heavy main, it's near impossible to stay accurate when any shorter enemies is that up close. And that doesn't have to mean just light players. Medium players that are really close are annoying to deal with as well. The steep angle makes it very hard to perform any aim movement and actually keep tracking the enemy, and your gun will cover most of the enemy as well, making it hard to even see them in the first place. So if you have a chance to, make sure to get real close and you will survive a lot of your encounters. Heavy also has a huge hitbox size, which really gets in the way when it comes to some movement techniques. One of the most depressing parts of playing heavy is, of course, these vents. If you're being chased by a heavy player and you need to get away, just slide through the vents and they'll be forced to either waste their utility to blow up the wall or run the long way around. But anyways, let's move on and talk about utility. The heavy's mesh shield will be a hard nut to crack because its whole job is giving space to their entire team and eating your damage. But that being said, most heavies don't know how to use it effectively, meaning they keep it up for way too long when they really don't need to. And since it only has a health pool of 1100, this means that you can take it down with a magazine or two, especially with focused fire from your team. The shield does take a while to recover once broken, so if you manage to break it when the heavy and their teammates are out in the open, they now turn into easy kills. So if there is nothing else for you to do at the moment, make sure to sink some extra bullets into an exposed shield if the enemies behind the shield aren't looking at you. This gives the mesh shield a much smaller health pool when things actually matter. Remember, there isn't any damage fall off to any bullets in the game, so you can whittle down enemy shields from really far away. Another counter to the mesh shield specifically will be any type of long-range explosive such as the nuke, an RPG, or grenades. A heavy holding a shield up will very often have their teammates right behind them, meaning that all you need to do is aim slightly above it with an explosive and get devastating damage on the enemy team once it passes over the shield. As for the charge and slam, if the enemy does start a charge, your best bet will be trying to juke them out like a bull by sprinting one way and then turning around and sprinting the other. If you can force them to need to turn around to get back to you, this will hopefully give you some free shots or a chance to escape. If they're starting a charge in the open from really far away, just shoot them. They don't have additional health or anything, they're free kills. If they are far enough and you have some time, another counter includes climbing onto the nearest high ground to force them out of the charge to shoot at you. I don't really think that the charge and slam is that useful, but I figured I'd include it for the few people that somehow still do. Moving on, the goo gun is certainly annoying to deal with, especially if you don't expect it, and especially if it's combined with a sledgehammer. The goo to sledgehammer cheese combo can be lethal if you don't play around it, so how do you do it? Well, you might not like the answer because it's simple simpler than you think. A heavy running a goo gun and a sledgehammer means that they don't have any mid-range weapons, you know, short of the nuke and the RPG. I know, you know, don't get mad at me. And they don't have any defensive abilities either, meaning that they're forced to play indoors or behind cover. Always keep an eye on where the goo gun sledgehammer is playing from, and if possible, just don't fight them indoors or close range. Try to draw them out and just slowly pick them off from a distance. There's nothing they can do, and their team lacks so much utility that they need in order to win a fight and the game. Speaking of range, that'll be the best counter to the heavy's auto shotgun, the SA-1216. Keep in mind this is hands down the best weapon in the game at the moment, but as soon as you're 5 to 10 meters away, it really starts falling off damage-wise, and past the 10 to 20 meter range, all it does is pepper the enemy up nicely. If you have the chance, try to keep your distance from any heavies with the SA-1216 and deal with them over range instead. Try to avoid allowing them to get too close, and if they do get really close, try to put yourself behind cover where as little of your body is exposed, or straight up turn around and reposition to a spot that's a little bit farther away. And of course, running straight into a heavy with a shotgun seems counterintuitive. Don't they want you up close and personal for maximum damage? The thing is, the shotgun is really high risk, really high reward. You only really have 4 shots per semi-reload, and if an enemy gets close enough where hitting these shots starts getting really uncomfortable, those 4 shots that you need to get a kill suddenly become a lot harder. And just a note, just a tiny note, before you run straight into a heavy, keep in mind that in order to get close enough to a heavy where they will be uncomfortable, you first have to pass the optimal range for the shotgun where they want you. So don't just jump straight into them when they are looking at you, because you're playing straight into their hand. As for the dome shield or the bubble, there are a lot of ways to play around it. It's very situational, but I want to mention a few. At the time of this video, it has 300 health, meaning every weapon in the game can take it down in one burst or one magazine from every range. Hell, when I play shotgun heavy, I can easily snipe the bubble with a few shots from up to 100 meters away. So if you see an enemy bubble, just like with the mesh shield, if you have an opening to do some free damage, make sure to break it, even if it isn't meant for you. If a heavy pops a bubble in your face when you're fighting, you can try crossing into the bubble and killing them through it. Just keep in mind that the heavy can shoot you the entire time, while you need to work around the barrier just to get a shot in. Unless the heavy is really low, like one hit, one punch, you're generally better off backing up a little bit and breaking that bubble before actually engaging the heavy. Always remember that the bubble has a cooldown of 30 seconds, so if you break it, the heavy won't have another for quite a while. Speaking of long cooldowns, the RPG also has a hefty one of 45 seconds. If your enemy wastes it, this means that you'll have a 45-second window before they can use it again. And if heavy does pull up the RPG, they are very likely to fire it in the next second, so try getting behind cover to avoid getting a direct hit and taking a lot of damage. If you're playing heavy yourself, this can be a good moment to pull up the mesh shield, drop a bubble, or if you're playing medium, you can place an APS turret to deal with that RPG shot and turn the fight back in your favor. But if you, for whatever reason, don't have access to either, a well-timed jump might stop the heavy from getting a direct hit and as such, maximum damage on you. But when it comes to the heavy's long-range explosives such as the RPG or even the nukes, you'll learn that defensive abilities and more of a defensive playstyle will more often than not be the thing that saves your life. But now, let's sit down and talk about nukes. It's time for me to tell you guys how to deal with them once and for all. First of all, you're gonna have to accept that nukes probably aren't going to be removed from the game. Almost every single finals trailer so far has shown the nuke strat in one way, shape, or form, which to me signals that the developers are okay with it. Furthermore, Embark, the people who made this game, made Battlefield, the franchise where you were able to ram trucks, ATVs, and cars strapped with C4 straight into enemies for like a decade now. So yeah, it's probably not going anywhere. But anyways, how do you deal with the nuke? The first step is identifying that the heavy is going to be carrying nukes, which at this point in the game will be a guarantee. If the enemy is running heavy, they're gonna be going for nukes. You can just kind of expect it at this point. But now that we know that the enemy is running nukes, the second step will always be knowing where they are or where they will come from. If you are aware of where a heavy is, especially when you're carrying a nuke, this will allow you to apply the counter strats more efficiently and make it near impossible for them to get a good nuke off in the first place. Keep an eye on respawns, having recon senses in your team, or just paying attention goes a long way. So let's go over a few counter strats that anyone can do. If you see a heavy carrying a nuke, shoot at it. If it's a green gas nuke, they're forced to throw it almost instantly. That's because if you hit it once, it will start seeping gas, which damages the heavy and their teammates, and if they take too long to throw it, the canister will break in their face and leave a large cloud and their C4 on the ground. If you do pop the green barrel, get out of their line of sight, because odds are they're gonna try throwing the nuke in your face. If they are carrying an orange barrel, shooting it until it starts burning starts a 5-second timer where they will be forced to throw it or have it blow up in their face. Same thing goes if you have primed their nuke, don't look at it, get into cover. And as for the red barrel nuke, just keep your head down. If you manage to hit one of the C4s of the nuke, it will blow up instantly, killing the heavy and maybe their teammates in the process. And yes, I'm aware that nukes have been nerfed. I did write the video before they were nerfed, but since red nukes still work, almost as good in wiping an individual or maybe even an entire team out, to the point where they're still plaguing high ranked, this means that you still need to learn how to deal with them. Knowing where the enemies are coming from will be the key here, because if you know where they are coming from, this lets you put damage into the barrel before they've even spotted you. And speaking of which, I can't stress this enough, if the nuke carrying heavy starts looking at you, get behind cover, or you're gonna turn into a red mist of coins in no time. So anybody can shoot a nuke, but what else is there? If you can hit the nuke head on with any type of explosive, the splash damage will be enough to set their own nuke off and kill them. So if you are, for example, a fellow heavy, keeping your RPG off its long cooldown, strictly to take out their nukes will go a long way. You can also counter nuke them if you feel like doing that instead. As for defensive abilities, if you're playing medium, the APS turret will be the best counter to the nuke that you could ask for. Either have it on hand and instantly pop it when the nuke starts coming your way, or preemptively set it up in front of you and play behind it. That's because if a nuke passes through the APS range, the APS will destroy all of the C4 and turn it into nothing more than a measly barrel toss. If you're playing heavy and haven't been able to take out the enemy nuke just yet, your shields are also a great defensive tool to deal with this incredibly strong strat. That's because on its own, C4 will always get reflected if thrown against a mesh shield or a dome barrier, but if it's attached to a prop which then passes through that shield, the C4 will straight up get deleted. The same logic applies to the APS turret. You can use the dome or the shield reactively and put the shield up when the nuke comes flying. And you can even hold it up preemptively or even set up a dome shield when you know it's on its way. Just keep in mind that a smart heavy that watched this video already knows how to deal with the preemptive mesh shield or dome shield, so going for the reactive shield countering the nuke as it comes in is probably the better choice. Generally speaking, knowing what the enemy will do and executing a countermeasure strat before they do will yield you the best results. With all of this in mind, if you have the chance to, you're gonna want to play on a high ground to make it harder for them to nuke you. That being said, generally speaking, high ground is where you want to be, so I didn't want to stress something you already should be doing. But anyways, that's how you counter the strongest parts of Heavy's kit. If you want me to cover anything else, let me know in the comments. I'm making the game so much harder for myself by making this video, so if you guys want to see me struggle on Heavy starting today, make sure to drop by at twitch.tv/Ottr. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out.